Hi, everyone, and welcome to Augmented Engineering in Action, the series where we show you how companies are really using AI. My name is Scott Carey. I'm the editor-in-chief here at Lead Dev, and I'm going to be your host for this fifth and final session of this series in association with Augment Code. I'm joined again for this session by Matt Ball from Augment. Matt, how are you doing today?
Good, thanks, Scott. Thanks for asking. Excited for another one of these sessions, particularly with Jawahar, someone that I've worked with a little bit already, and both Jawahar and Tekion really thought leaders, I think. So excited to get into this one and learn more.
Yeah, I've been really impressed with some of the stuff Jowahar's been showing us behind the scenes. So I'm really excited to show everyone else what we've been learning about over the last couple of weeks. So yeah, without further ado, let's introduce our panelists today. So Jawahar, hi, welcome. Could you just tell us a little bit about yourself and the work that you do at Tekion?
Sure. Thanks, Scott. Hey, I'm Jawahar, Senior Director of Engineering at Tekion. Tekion is an automotive retail cloud platform, and I lead our AI-driven engineering transformation, right? Starting from defining the persona framework to deploying AI agents across development, QA, and product. So we kind of started this small internal experiment, and today more than 1,300 engineers use AI in their daily workflows. I'm looking forward to sharing all of that today and how we made that possible and what meant for our teams primarily.
Yeah, great. And before we get into it, just tell us a little bit more about how Tekion is kind of how it's constructed with the teams. I know that the AI enablement piece has been really across those 1,300 engineers, but tell us a little bit more about how you organize and the products that you deliver for customers as well.
Absolutely. So Tekion has primarily three verticals. Automotive retail cloud, we call it ARC, and second is our automotive enterprise cloud, and third is our automotive partner cloud. Automotive retail cloud is primarily the DMS that we have built for our dealership. The beauty is the DMS has all integrated pieces together under one platform where the entire dealership operations can be run. Automotive enterprise cloud, on the other hand, brings the end consumers who wants to buy a car, the car dealer who wants to sell a car, and the car, the OEMs who actually manufactures the vehicles, right? All three entities under one platform, completely integrated. So that's the beauty. The end consumer can buy it, the dealer helps out, and the OEMs kind of manufactures and integrates with the overall platform. Third is our automotive partner cloud, primarily enabling third-party companies to integrate with our APIs, our open APIs, and consumer Tekion data. So that's how we have actually structured. We have AI-enabled platform. We have internal Tekion AI engine to help dealers, consumers, and OEMs interact with Tekion ecosystem through AI. So that's one part of it. So that's in brief, Scott.
Nice. Yeah, useful just to know before we get into the detail, because one of the big things that I really learned over the last few weeks talking to you is just like the enablement piece, like the way that you've thought really carefully about how you roll these tools out to a wide range of different people across Tekion. Yeah, it's been one of the kind of more thoughtful AI strategies that I've seen over the last year or so. And we're really going to get into the detail of that. But tell us a little bit more about kind of when AI or generative AI or AI coding tools started to kind of really appear on your offer for you and your teams.
Absolutely. So let me share my screen. Just take you guys through that.
While Jawahar's doing that, I'll just tell the attendees we've got live today that there is a Q&A functionality in Zoom. So if there's any questions you want to ask Jawahar throughout the session, drop them in there and I'll try and pick up as many of those as we can, make it a bit more interactive. Perfect. So, I can see that.
Yeah. So let's talk about the history a little bit, right? This all started back in Q2 2024, where there were a flood of AI tools across the internet, and we started evaluating a few tools. What is the objective? Objective is to give the power to our developers, product, QA, and across the board, so they can utilize the power to deliver the innovation that we always deliver, right? We are a very exponentially growing company, and we are very limited with bandwidth. So we wanted to give more bandwidth to our engineers to think, ask right questions, but then AI do the grind. right? So we evaluated a lot of tools, all top tools at that point in time. Sonnet 3.5 was the LLM at those days, which powered the tools that were available. We evaluated some tools excelled in coding a little bit, but most of the time we found for unit test cases AI really excelled well. That was not enough. We continued the POC. Back in May 2025, this year, I personally started implementing a large feature. When I implemented that feature, I noticed using one of the very popular IDEs with Sonnet 4, of course. I started implementing the feature, it kind of built it, but then I also noticed that as a human, we missed a few features. I missed it, test cases were not written and whatnot. And I tried to incrementally add those features to the code. I found that the AI IDE and the LLM kind of hallucinated a lot, and it went and broke the code pieces and features that was already built. Then I had to prompt again to make so many corrections. At that point in time, I figured, okay, there is a method to this madness, and that is when the persona-driven AI framework was born. It was completely inbuilt, very structured framework, which we'll talk about in this session. At that point in time, again, we figured augment code with a context engine that Augment has built. It's so powerful. It helps us a lot. And we did a POC and we were successfully able to use the persona-driven AI framework on Augment context engine, which amplified the result that we actually got from the quality perspective. Come June 2025, we rolled out Augment code across the company. More than 1,300 engineers started using it. June and August 2025, we did a lot of onboarding, sessions, adoption, goal set by our CEO, CTO, Matthew. And the persona AI adoption, started kicking off. We noticed in some of the pilot teams that, started adopting at that point in time, they picked one Jira, two Jiras, and then 50% of their Jira tickets were implemented using the framework. We noticed 50 to 85% productivity gain. Just to give you a picture, right? If you use a raw LLM calling the API and start building features, you could expect somewhere between 30 to 40% gain in productivity numbers. With the persona AI framework, we achieved today 80 to 100% productivity gain. I'm not exaggerating at all. Come September 2025, we took another step. We made Code Reviewer AI. We built it and integrated part of our GitLab pipeline. So today, every MR that's being raised gets automatically L1 reviewed by our Code Reviewer AI. We built unit testing AI. Unit testing, bring the unit testing coverage from any number that you have to 90% plus coverage within few days, completely using AI. And today, more than 20% of our code base, coverage is across 90% plus.
Yeah. So Jawahar, just to kind of sum up, so you were sat there in May, kind of playing around with Sonnet 4, and you were just like, this isn't quite what we need it to do at an enterprise level. So you discovered yourself that if this is really going to work, you needed it to be persona driven. You needed it to understand the context of various different personas across the organization. And then is that what led you to Augment rather than it the other way around, where Augment kind of sold you on the benefits of the persona driven?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And Sonnet 4.5 and GPT-5 again amplified a lot. So one thing that's very important for all of us to understand is any AI framework, we should never target 100% accuracy. That's not going to happen. AI will hallucinate, and we need to embrace that quality. And hallucination is good in many cases, right? The framework that we build, or that any of you build, target around 80% accuracy through strong prompts, through strong context, and powerful context engines like Augment or others, right? Together, targeting 80% plus, and of course, remaining 20%, we should leave it to the LLMs to solve, right? GPT-5 and Sonnet 4.5, they are really good, and they amplified the quality of output and our current personas to more than that we could imagine. Come October 2025, some of our teams achieved 65% to 100% productivity gains, right? So that's our history in brief. Scott.
So Jawahar, we were chatting a little bit before this, and I think some people might be interested in how did you make the leap from an experience I think we've all had where it feels like we're fighting the model? You ask for one thing, it breaks the last thing, and then you ended up with this persona-driven framework that I know we're going to learn more about, but sounds like highly specialized individual agents. Um, I think you'd mentioned something about, observing that the agents were good when given a set of tasks or a task list. Is that part of what helped you bridge from, that technique that we've all started with to the much more specialized framework?
Yeah, so I can dig a deep dive into that. So when taking back to the same example, right, when I started building that large feature, it's like, I had to go prompt multiple times. My entire day was about prompting. There's just too many prompts, hundreds of prompts. That's not how we can do on a day-to-day basis, right? You're not going to gain productivity by doing just that. Maybe little. So going backwards, how do we make AI or LLMs less hallucinate, right? So maybe break down the task and supply it to our AIs to do just that. So a large task broken down into smaller subtasks and asking our AIs to do the implementation works out much better, right? It has worked really, really well. But then for you to break the tasks, you need a help of an architect, right? If it's a complex problem or a medium complex problem, you need an architect to solve a requirement, design it for you, call out the functional, non-functional aspects of the problem, and then give that solution to the engineering teams, in this case, AI teams, to go break down those tasks and then supply it to the AIs to do the job. The beauty is breaking down this task is part of the framework, which is again done by AI agent. The architecture that I just spoke about is again done by AI agent. And how does the architecture get built by the AI is through the requirements. So you write a solid requirement with acceptance criteria, and all the edge cases dependency called out, architect can do a better job. So we ended up building a requirements AI. So given a very high level abstract requirement, it can take the abstract requirement, find out dependencies and functional, non-functional aspects of it based on the past context. That's where again augment context engine comes into picture, right? Along with the generated context. These AIs play a vital role in every step of the way. But by the way, remember that I spoke about AI being 80% accurate. It's not 100%. So human in the loop is very important. You do requirements AI, give a Jira comment, the human gets in, reviews it, says yes, no, and proceeds to the next step. Better still, when you invoke requirements AI stop there saying, hey, these are my assumptions. I have these many questions. Can you please help me answer? Right? Help with the answer. So the human jumps in and answers and clarifies, and then the AI generates it. So that's even much better, right? So that's how we have actually implemented it. And towards the end, you see the productivity gains that we are looking at.
Yeah, and Jawahar, which persona did you start with, and then how did that kind of become what you now know of as the persona framework that you built out at Tekion?
Okay, let me just go to the next slide here. You see what I'm talking about. This is the entire flow that we have today.
Mm-hmm.
I spoke about going from backwards, right? That's how it was built. But if you look from the left to the right, starting from a Jira ticket, when a Jira ticket is created, you invoke requirements AI, which is primarily a product persona, right? A Jira ticket with very abstract content, abstract requirement, invoking a requirements AI, converts the Jira ticket into a detailed Jira ticket with acceptance criteria and the dependencies and whatnot based on the context that is available. And once the requirements are done, the human review comes into place. The human jumps in and reviews the requirement and then says, I'm good. Move to the architect AI. So the human, again, as a developer, you invoke architect AI in your IDE. And the architect AI takes the requirements, designs the architecture for you based on the current repository, current system, and the context that is available with you. Generates the architecture. Then comes your planner AI, where the engineering manager or engineering team picks the architecture Jira ticket and the feature requirements, uses planner AI to break down the tasks into multiple subtasks. Again, engineering manager or engineering team reviews the subtasks. and all the Jira tickets gets created automatically by the AI, by the way. So there's no human intervention here. The AI agents create these Jira tickets. Human just reviews it. The developer AIs, in this case, multiple different developers, you can use the developer AI to build each of these Jiras one by one. Again, it creates the pull request in GitLab or any Git system that you use automatically. Our code reviewer AI, once the pull request is created, automatically kicks in and reviews every pull request that was created and leaves out the review comments there. How do we ensure if all of this is right? Checklist AI comes into picture. So every persona here has a checklist inbuilt, and I'll show you one of the sample checklists later. It reviews every step, every persona's output based on a certain checklist. It scores based on the mandatory and optional sections, and say this is my overall score. And if the score is within a threshold, it go to the next step. So technically, if the checklist doesn't happen, doesn't exist, what happens? The human manually reviews it, but we kind of captured everything in the checklist. The human just have to review the checklist output and then move forward. Better yet, with our headless system that we are going to do today, currently building, even this is automated. So basically, another AI reviews all of these output and then takes the decision on whether to move to the next step or not. Same applies to the test developer and test designer AI that you see below. Our QA teams or developer teams who does QA themselves, black box texting, they can use these AIs, test designer, test developer, and test executor to generate test cases and test scripts and check in there into the repository and then final approval. Just to give you a perspective, again, on the left, if you see it down, this is our prompt. Versus if you don't have a framework defined for yourself, you will end up doing, hey, can you just go implement this? You'll do corrections over corrections over corrections, so much typing, so much talking to the AI, and you do it. But here, we just say, as developer AI, implement this ticket. That's it. The detailed prompt and what to pull, what context needs to be pulled. Context in the sense here, examples are coding guidelines, your design guidelines, your libraries that you have or frameworks that you have in-house that you wanted to use part of your development. All that are by default implemented part of the framework. So just one prompt is good enough. That will go and implement everything for you. So that's
do you find engineers now start to have this like bank of like one-line prompts, just like kind of like sat on their desktop, and they can just pull from them as they need to, and then it will become second nature over time, right?
Absolutely.
Jawahar, could you show us that checklist? I think I'd love to see kind of like what the steps are that you're kind of checking against and where a human might want to step in. And I definitely think it's fascinating to think you will then have eventually have an AI doing the checklist as well. And you're just going to kind of move the human further left or right. Matt, I don't know. I keep forgetting whether we're shifting left or shifting right with this.
Absolutely.
I think it's difficult to place it in a way because this is such an advancement of how we're thinking about the software life cycle. Certainly, I think it almost doesn't feel like a shift left or right. I think what's so impressive about this, it's thinking about how can you use agents at every part of the software life cycle rather than just inserting something in one place as a shift left, speed up X. Really, we're looking at the entire landscape. But I really love that, Jawahar's still talking about human in the loop. I think it's great to be, really ambitious and putting these agents throughout the life cycle, but it's also really important to be realistic, right? We haven't had a super intelligence moment with these models yet. So designing this framework with the human in mind is, I think, what's really leading to the success of it.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, Jawahar, talk us through this checklist. So you have one of these for each.
We have one of these for each persona. Yes, definitely needed. You're looking at architect AI checklist, right? Now, what do we have here at a high level? We have mandatory checks and we have optional checks. And end of the day, the architect generates a system design. So we validate the system design generated by the architect part of the checklist. And every file, this file, what all sections does it should it have? For example, an architect, system design should have a HLD, LLD, the flows and change impact analysis, implementation guidelines, and whatnot. Backend architecture, if it's a backend, specific thing, what are the backend related check that we have to do, and front-end related checks, diagrams. In this case, we use Mermaid and the Mermaid diagrams, and the sequence flows and whatnot, right? All these are defined currently part of the checklist. Now, if I quickly scroll up, I'll just take one example here. So for any AI, as you said, context is very important. The first step itself, we have something called as a context builder AI, which kind of crawls the entire code and generates, MD files in textual format with designs and whatnot. Our context builder AI generates the context for the repository so that LLM, you can just spoon feed the LLMs, to do it. Once you generate the context and, insert it part of the framework, what we do is when the developer calls the prompt, the context loading happens first. And once you supply the context to Augment, and Augment takes care of the rest, right? So if you see here, evidence log investigation JSON created with queries, hits, decisions, they are very specific to, Tekion. You could say minimum 5 to 8 targeted architectural investigation queries executed using code-based retrieval, new components requiring creation documented. So any new components that you create, documentation exists or not, high-level design completed for the change scope or not. So a feature could be a new feature built or an incremental feature. So for any incremental feature, which is the change scope, have you gone and updated the HLD? Has the architect AI updated the LLD, right? So all of that, and towards the end, architect AI stops for a human, review, and then it takes, hey, approved or not? Is a revision needed or not? Did the AI do that or not? So why are we even doing this check? Is because AIs hallucinate. There's no guarantee that you put anything in the prompt gets executed, right? That's the creativity part of the LLMs itself, which is needed. But the con is, even though you reduce the temperature to as much as possible to make it grounded, AI is missing. So this checklist ensures, everything is captured as per, what we've defined. Towards the end, we have the validation summary. What's the scoring mechanism that we have? What the checklist AI does is it fills the checklist, gives out the score. I'm going to show the score, when we go to the dashboard, but you'll see the scores there that got generated, and it's very impressive. Whenever it goes below the threshold, that's when we get notified and say, okay, what really happened with that, and how do we go help and fix the framework itself, for example, right? When any of these doesn't happen, it'll automatically fail. Right? So this is a sample checklist, Scott.
Perfect. And then, so this is like this feels like a real change to how an engineer might go about their work to me. Like they now are kind of doing more overseeing, they're kind of doing more checking, obviously with the checklist here. How did you start to bring everyone along on that journey with this change towards the persona AI kind of framework? And did you get resistance? How did you kind of get everyone to shift towards this?
Initially, because we always have things to deliver, right? Teams have their day job, to deliver features and meet the sprint commitments and whatnot. And they were a little worried about, hey, whether AI will do what is being promised. And that was like 8-9 months back, right? Mm-hmm. But then we started with a small team, my own teams, small POC. We started with one Jira ticket. Then I did have very aggressive goals, had very aggressive goals at that point in time. So next sprint, we are going to do 50% of the tickets using AI. Delivery miss, it's fine, we'll take care of it, right? So the bold decisions that we took, and with the support of our, leadership was really, really helpful. And our teams, even though a little fearful, took the challenge and then did it happen, make it happen, right? So when we implemented the first 50% of those Jira tickets using AI, this framework, we did see problems here and there, especially for the front end, right? It doesn't really implement as per what's in Figma. Things go wrong. It doesn't follow the design tokens and whatnot. These kind of challenges were always there, but we evolved. And we saw success with the 50%, Jira ticket implementation. Even if it's like a 10% productivity improvement, it's still great. Let's just move forward, not take a step back. We said next sprint, we'll do 100% AI only implementation. So my teams really took that challenge and implemented that. That validation helped really because we took that learning and applied it across the organization today. Now, even across the organization, there are engineers who are little worried about asking questions about quality, all of that. But that to me is a nice problem to have, because we have already proven, shown that it works. And with code review array, it's kind of mandatory running in the pipeline. It's anyway proven, really successful. So that problem statement we are right now working on with multiple adoption, sessions and workshops and whatnot.
Yeah, tell us a little bit more about that code review AI, because I think that's kind of a key part here, isn't it? Code review is so, part and parcel of what an engineer does every day, but it's also can be painful. So I think that, yeah, you've kind of really driven hard on this part of the software development lifecycle, right?
Yeah, I can show you that. I'll show you an example directly in GitLab itself, right? If you see this, my architect generated this yesterday. It's like really new. So if you see this, GitLab bot token, this is, you could think of like a bot that people, this code review AI bot. Behind the scenes, it uses the same framework, same checklist, and Augie CLI, right? Augie CLI is a runner in GitLab with the persona present and the MR created at this point in time. The GitLab runner executes and it executes against this code base. Now, this is the output of the code review array. This is a summary. Now, if you go to the detailed changes, there are inline comments given in every line. So you'll see inline comments down. But let's talk about the overall summary here. The summary, it talks about how many issues found, how many are critical, major, minor, security statuses, like any PIIs and any other security validations or issues. What are the requirements coverage? Again, the beauty, there are a couple of tools that we have evaluated for code review. There are open tools available. These tools check the current code. Good, but do they check against the requirement that was originally created, right? So we need to evaluate the code against the requirement that was actually created. Our code reviewer AI kind of outperformed any of those tools. We kind of evaluated 3 to 4 tools. It was, with Augie CLI, of course, it did a really wonderful job doing that and bringing in the code context and the organization level guidelines, coding guidelines and whatnot. Our code reviewer AI, did this analysis. Critical issues, you talk about the front-end issue that, that was found in this PR. It talks about adding null check. This is a good one, right? Null check is a very common problem across, back and front end. It talks about that. It talks about the major issues that were found and other minor issues, and it talks about the test coverage and whatnot, right? So engineer can look at this, and of course, engineers are really worried about the inline comments. That's even more useful. Inline, you can just go accept it and move forward. And we, once this is done, what does it mean? This is good, bad? We have built the tools and dashboard to evaluate that, and that's how we take a call on it's good review or bad review.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an engineer, but this even looks familiar to me, like just from a content perspective, when I work in WordPress, it's like, here's your issues to resolve. Did it pass? Did it fail? Like, I can just work through this. It obviously really simplifies the task, right?
Yeah, very much.
Yeah, I think code review is one of those things that a lot of engineers don't look forward to, right? And we hear common issues through all organizations. When you've got engineers across the globe, you end up with a long delay. Sometimes the person who needs to review is 8 hours away from the author, and then you have that sort of painful time between every review and update from the author. And also we've heard a lot that with more people using AI, some PRs are becoming bigger, which can result in people rubber stamping, right? It's too much to review and they're like, oh, I'll just approve it. So all of this seems like an incredible first pass way to break down some of the barriers to people even getting started in the review process, right? It makes it feel easier and something that you can fear a bit less because something's already made a first pass for you.
Absolutely. And it just does it immediately, right? You don't have to wait for an engineer to be available to come review your PR, but it just invokes immediately.
Yeah. And Jawahar, you're tracking this at a high level, aren't you, in terms of how effective the code review AI has been. Do you want to show us a little, like some of those results
Oh yeah,
so far?
So this is the dashboard that, again, my architect built over the last 2 weeks. AI is so powerful that we could build even a dashboard, that fast. So what you're seeing here is a custom build, tool, in-house build. And I've selected a May 1st to May 31st as a date. This is when we did not have AI implemented that much in Tekion. And I also will take you through how it looked in September and last month, October, right?
Awesome.
Now, this dashboard, if you see here, gives the statistics on all our repositories that we currently crawled, talks about how many MRs that are merged back in May, 810 merge requests merged in that particular month. Average time taken to merge an MR, 2 days and 9 hours. Average time to first human review, 2 days and 24 hours. Total comments, around 947. Total human comments were around 929. At that point in time, we were doing some POC with AI. So you see 18 AI comments also because we kind of played around with the persona framework. Average comments. Total comments resolution rate, right? 947, 72% of those were resolved. And 73% of those human, plus or minus, resolved by human. Now, total lines of code delivered, 336,000, right? So this is the dashboard that we have. Now, fast forwarding to September. I'm just going to scroll, go up and down. You see the difference here.
So interesting, yeah.
This is the impact of AI. This doesn't talk about just code review, right? If you look at the number of MRs merged with AI adoption, you see that. 810 to a 1477, right? 2 days, 8 hours, 2 days, 3 hours, and time to first AI reviews, it is 1 day and 3 hours. But current AI code reviewer that we have reviews that in 5 to 10 minutes immediately as an L1 reviewer. And it doesn't wait for the human to come and acknowledge and raise it. Total number of comments here is 10,200. Total human comments are 2,400. 7,788 AI comments, right, are given. Now, what does it mean? If AI is giving 7,700, we need to look at, and we'll talk about how many of these are valid, invalid in a second. But 7,700 AI comments across Tekion, that saves so many bandwidth, so much of bandwidth of human, and gives it back to the company so the engineers can focus on asking right questions and use their creativity for the regular work, not worry about spending time on this, right? That's what it means. Total comments resolution is around 48%. Total human comments resolved 71. Total AI comments resolved, that was back in September, 37. And reduction in human comments, 46%. So that is one of the very important metric. And total lines of code, although it's not a primary metric, I'm just giving you as an example, 453, right? It went up.
Nice.
Let me go to October, for a second. You see this here, like average time to first AI review is 2.1 hours. Even this is high because there's a CI/CD pipeline runs, then our AI code review runs. So it's because of that. Otherwise, it's just immediate, right? Total MRs merged, total comments. You're looking at total AI comments at 70 to 100, and total AI comments resolved is 35%. Now, I want to say one thing, right? We're not going to sit here and just keep watching this dashboard manually. We are now implementing something called as the AI Autolearning. Based on this 35%, we are going to figure out why 65% of those remaining comments were not accepted. We are going to find the behavior patterns of what AI comments were, bucket them, and figure out how we can, maybe are those valid comments or invalid comments? Invalid comments in the sense we are going to take it as a guideline and make AI not repeat the same things. But if it's valid comments, we are going to put it part of the guidelines, and we're going to talk to the developers to see why they were not able to accept it. On the other side, 73% of those human comments were accepted. We're going to ask question about why AI couldn't find it, why humans still did these many comments in the PR, like 1,800, even though it's very less. Find the behavior patterns. good patterns, implement that part of the code reviewer guideline. That way AI finds it, the human bandwidth is reduced. So give it back to the company. So we're going to really shift left. Not just this. Once we figure this out, we're going to even ask this question, right? Why AI is finding so many comments? Should the previous personas implement it in the right way so that it doesn't come to the code reviewer in the first place? So that's how we are planning to auto learn and then shift left and improve our persona framework overall. Think about that.
It's a new interesting challenge that you didn't have 6 months ago.
Yeah, no, if you implement this, your AI for AI's vision that we have comes into play. Because you shifted left, now these personas are like more of an execution personas, really have nothing to do. Now AI can be as autonomous as possible. Of course, keeping human in the loop, but the accuracy goes really, really high, more than 80%. So that's our target goal.
I'm curious, Jawahar, I would say this is a very sophisticated and mature thing that you have at this point. Obviously, it sounds like you're going to iterate a little bit more, but for anyone who's listening in, kind of sounds like code review might be a good place to start, right? If you haven't done any persona yet, you get going with code review. And which of those metrics do you think is like most interesting? Like if you can just measure one, or you haven't reached the point of maturity of having a whole dashboard yet, like what do you think is like the core signal that leaders can look at to understand that code review is having a good effect?
If you ask me, I'll just go back to this dashboard. Most important metric, I would say, is the AI comments that are accepted by the developer, right? End of the day, it's the developer who accepts today. And if you see 70 to 100 AI comments, and 35% of those were accepted, right? And now we need to increase this percentage and reduce the human comments percentage. If you see here, this is fine, but we need to reduce the number of comments here, right? So once we have the persona strong enough, if we are able to achieve this, and I think this is the ultimate metric from code review perspective. And second, the quality of the code review itself, the checklist that you're going to build, the persona that you're going to build, the quality of that person also is important, which we'll talk about in a second. Right, let me just go down here. So this one, this dashboard we have is for all the personas that we have. It has quality scores, how many times it got executed, and what is the quality score, primarily here, right? For code review per se, we have something like this. If you see here in the last 30 days, we have 13,900 reviews done by our code review AI. On an average, the quality score is 94.69%. This score is important, right? It ran against 2,700 Jira tickets across 7 users, 39 components. 7 users because it's bot user. One bot runs everything, right? So this quality score, if it goes down, less than 94, 95%, we just need to double click and see if, checklist or persona, what you need to improve to achieve that score. And second is this, human comments and total AI comments. And ultimately, of course, how much bandwidth we are going to give it back to the developer, to the company, so that the engineers can focus on something else, increasing the overall story points or velocity of the company. Matt.
Yeah, that looks great, Jawahar. I think it's really interesting to see all of this telemetry, because a lot of the stories that we hear are often a little bit finger in the wind. Like we're using AI and we know it must be having some kind of effect, but we're not necessarily sure what. We don't know how to measure it. I think developer productivity is one of those things that challenges a lot of organizations for how to get a handle on it and what to look at. So this is a really interesting perspective of how someone who's leading the charge in terms of a persona-driven framework is thinking about measuring.
Yeah, we've done a bunch of research on this throughout the year, and we've got a new report coming out this week where we actually asked, are you measuring the performance of your AI systems or LLMs? And it was about a quarter is about 20 to 25%. So it really is the minority at the moment who are doing anything at all. What Jawahar is doing here is not the bare minimum. We can see that it's, telemetry right the way across all the personas, with kind of this deep dive into code review. And I love that this is all homegrown in 6 months, Jawahar? Is that right?
This tool, yeah, overall persona framework, yes, last 6 months.
Yeah. Cool. Was there anything else you wanted to show us on the analytics side or telemetry side? Or
I can show you this personas, for example. This is a heat map that, again, our team built in the last few days. We have all these personas. You can keep adding more and more personas. We have a migration persona. Migration is one of the common problems that I want to just bring it out, right? I have written code in Python. I want to convert to Java. My code base is legacy. I want to convert to a new code base with all the nice bells and whistles and whatnot, right? So migration personas is something we do. All these personas, telemetry is important. You cannot improve what we cannot measure, right? What we don't measure. So it's very, very important to add telemetry to each of these personas. It's very simple. You have a large, prompt in your persona. You have your telemetry calls made, and you track it in your external system. It's as simple as that. This talks about day-to-day basis. These personas were invoked how many times and across different dates, right? So this kind of gives us a visibility on adoption. So we want to make sure all these personas are used across the company to give that productivity gain. So this kind of helps, and we reach out to teams. We have task force created. We work with the teams in Tekion in building Jiras one by one. We take the feedback, we go fix it, and then we again go back to the teams and from adoption perspective, right? So, and then we look at the score. Anything 94, 96, 100, great. If it goes to 70, 82, we definitely look into it. Right? We'll see, why it is done this way. How do we improve the prompt? If you improve the prompt, you need to have eval framework to test it. So we have built our eval framework in-house. And that's something we constantly keep improving and continuously keep doing it. This dashboard also has team level analysis and whatnot. Yeah.
Sorry, Jawahar. We actually had a question from Lauren who's watching, asking how you measure that quality score. What is considered quality?
Yeah, so quality score, again, going back to the checklist, this checklist has both completeness and quality, measurements, right? Every persona gives out the output, and whether the output that is generated is as per the requirement and as per the architecture that was already generated, right? So it kind of compares based on this checklist. This checklist is very custom made for each of the personas. Finally, you see here, there's a pass-fail criteria. How many mandatory passed, optional passed, and what's the score, and what's the overall score. This overall score is what you see here in the dashboard. As long as your checklist covers the quality criteria part of that, the quality score can be computed. Again, there's no manual work. You have LLM as a judge here, right? You use LLM as a judge and compute the score here. Yeah. And of course, the developers go and accept it, merge the PR, it goes. You can obviously track those and add it part of this. Today we don't have it, but definitely that's something you can add additionally. If the MR gets merged, that again adds to the score.
Got it.
Is there something that gave you confidence to use an LLM as a judge, Jawahar? Certainly, like we're seeing that be done in multiple places, but I know some people on first hearing that, they can be a little bit like, okay, I'm using an LLM to judge the output of another LLM. Like, am I just stacking things here? We've certainly seen it be effective, but I'm just curious as to your take on that.
Oh, very much effective. By the way, you can use the same LLM as a judge too. We pretty much do that, and you can also use other LLMs as a judge. There are different patterns, right? You can have a challenger pattern. You can do a self-critique pattern. For example, some of our AIs, we see architect and developer, right? Developer implements it. Architect, designs it. It critiques itself, self-critique. And if there's a problem with it, it'll do one more iteration and then passes it. It kind of improves the quality of output. Now, you can have another agent. Primarily, the checklist AI is another agent, for example, or a debate AI or a challenger AI. You can have the other AI question this, AI's output and, take it forward from there. So that really helps. Definitely using two different LLMs, two different models also, helps a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. We did a little bit of research that found that generally when we used an LLM as a judge, it usually agreed with what a human would make judging the same situation. And so it seems like really a great strategy to be able to, in this case, judge quality.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice. Jawahar, we're running out of time, and I really want to talk a little bit more about what you're working on next. You've made so much progress here, but I'm sure there's more personas in the pipeline. There's more tweaks you can make, and definitely more things you can do to kind of keep on this AI journey across the company.
Sure. So if you see from development perspective, we are enhancing the developer AI even more, primarily around the front-end aspects, right? How do we have a tighter integration with Figma so that just the Figma input given, the developer AI implements the feature ticket. Today, we take screenshots, we do a mapping with the Figma components with our code bases, we generate a context out of the Figma design system into store it in our code base. We invoke the developer AI, which uses the context that we generate. Again, Augment Context Engine powers that. And then we build it. It works great, but it can be done much more better with the tighter integration with Figma. Then you have the code review. I spoke about auto-learning, measuring human effective hours, how much hours we are giving back, and reducing code review issues through shift left approach. That we spoke about that. Integrated with Jira workflow is very important. Now, today we can use Augment IDE, the IDE extension, to invoke all of these 13 different prompts that I just spoke about. But what if it is integrated with Jira itself? Now you have a ticket. You can assign the ticket to an AI agent, in this case, Architect AI. The Architect AI, once it's assigned and the state is changed, it automatically picks the ticket, does the architecture, attaches the content back to the Jira, invokes through a Slack, informs the human via Slack or email. The engineer can or architect can come in and look at it. Hey, it looks good, not looks good. You can then pitch in via other mediums to actually correct the architecture. That is something we are looking at. We are currently working on the security AI. Take the threat modeling and PIIs. PIIs are already implemented, but other threat modeling and security aspects, building security AI, integrating it part of the GitLab pipeline. And of course, the product management personas, right? Starting from your BRD, how do you get to PRD and create stories, and then your regular personas, kick in, right? So that is something we are working on. We are working on the headless orchestration, AI managing AIs. Think of the situation where you have Scrum team of AIs only. So, right, there's an AI Scrum team, 8 or 9 agents with a manager agent. It automatically picks a bug, it automatically picks a feature, implements that, and of course, at any point in time, invokes a manager AI, LLM as a judge, reviews the output of each and every persona when needed. 20% of the cases invokes the code reviewers, human code reviewers, and human code reviewers reviews the output. They can go fix the bugs, do the anomaly detection, automatically try to fix the bug, does the RCA, raise a pull request, invokes the human for review and whatnot. That's something really cutting edge that we are currently working on. Scott.
Amazing. Lots to do. So if anyone's got any last questions for Jawahar before we get out of here, please get them in now. But Matt, is there anything you wanted to kind of ask at the end here?
Yeah, definitely. Some recommendations that I have for leaders of AI. There are a lot of tools in the internet available, as you said, but then later we
I'm now trying to work out if that's Jawahar.
Yeah, I think yeah.
It is. That is very unusual because
connection
it's normally me. So I was very nervous that it was me. It's even worse. It's the person that we all want to hear from. So let's give it a couple of secs there and see if he jumps back in. Hey, Jawahar.
Hey, sorry, not sure.
That's okay. You look like you're back.
Okay, are you able to see my screen?
Yeah. So let me just kind of catch us up where we started to lose you there. So I think you were starting to give some advice to folks who are maybe starting out on this journey too.
Absolutely. Just please give me a second. I just lost the slides now.
Yeah, no stress.
Okay, you able to see my screen, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Cool. So there are so many tools available in the internet, right? We can use all of those tools. They can give incremental, productivity gains in various, steps of the, entire PDLC or, your day-to-day. But starting with structure is very important. You first define the structure end to end, what we are trying to achieve, then try to fit the tool or your custom, your own framework. No problem. If you don't do that, we'll end up building or procuring so many tools and have a stack, but later to figure out none of these talk to each other, right? Because end of the day, that's what we want, right? We want all of these to talk to each other, pass the context, so that we have one system and we are able to achieve the Uber goal. Product managers talking to engineers and QA and whatnot, the same concept. Making AI a first-class team member, giving it a name, giving it a scope, giving it an accountability. One AI cannot do too many things. Define an AI, it can only do so many things. And if the scope creep, go to the next agent and whatnot. It should be treated like a developer in your organization and with clear metrics, and accountability. Baking AI into the process, not as an experiment. So integrate it part of the workflows, be it PR workflows, be it Jira or day to day, not as something that you can also do, because that system won't work, because we usually won't do that, right? It needs to be part of the system, part of your process. Balance autonomy with guardrails. Use checklists, very important. That is the only way we will have visibility. Otherwise, AI can do anything that it will do. You will not have visibility at all. Checklist, human in the loop validation, and compliance layers are very, very critical. That way, we can build trust on the AI. So you see a score 94%, you can say, I trust you. If we don't have a score, there's no trust. Focusing on enablement over enforcement, upskilling people, how to write prompts, how do you, learn AI, give them all the tools and techniques and learnings as possible, but then use the framework, because with the framework, you get the advantage of defining the overall governance rules, guidelines, checklists, and, design guidelines, coding guidelines, and whatnot, which earlier we left it to the human to follow. Although we try to create plugins and whatnot, today with the framework, you can enforce that at the, at org level. It's very powerful. And that way, upskilling people and making them learn and adopt is more important than just enforcing it. Measure everything. Checklists, measures, metrics, keep monitoring. And evolve from AI assisted to AI orchestrated. You can have agents invoked via IDE, but then automated agents, through orchestration is the way to go. And tomorrow, 6 months or 1 year down the line, I could only imagine AI is invoking these orchestrations automatically. So that's going to be the super powerful, next. So these are my recommendations.
Yeah, nice. And Jawahar, what would be the one thing that you know now that you wish you'd known when you started out here?
I think creating a framework and I think adoption, I never thought it would have been so difficult. Adoption is very difficult.
Yeah.
Changing, developers and engineers' mindset to say, hey, use the framework is hard. But then something differently I would have done, it could be, integrating that part of the Jira workflow. That's one of the learning here, right? Integrated part of the system. So the developers get to use it, on a day-to-day basis, part of the process.
Nice. It looks like we've got no more questions. Matt, have you got any final thoughts or final questions for Jawahar before we get out of here?
I don't know that I have any final questions. I think this has been like really, really informative. So can't thank you enough, Jawahar, for being willing to join and share all of this knowledge with us. I feel like I've learned listening here, so hope it's been the same for everyone tuning in as well.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Matt.
totally. Yeah, totally echo that. Thank you, Jawahar. And I think I'll just take this opportunity to just thank everyone that has been involved in this series. This is our final session, but right back to the first one we did with James up to today, I've learned so much about how these various companies are actually using AI in action, and they've been really generous to show us kind of some of those workflows, show us their dashboards, show us their IDE, show us the stuff they're doing. That was really the idea of this series, and I think that we've delivered on that. So thank you to all of our speakers for sharing. Thank you to Augment for supporting this series, for bringing these great people to our audience. Thank you to anyone who dialed into every one of these sessions. I know you're out there. And thanks, Matt, for co-hosting these with me. It's been a great pleasure.
Oh, thank you, Scott. You've led the whole thing, and it's just been a pleasure to be a part of it. Awesome.
Well, maybe we'll do some more in the future. Let's see if we can get some more of these stories out there. But for now, thank you so much, and goodbye.
Goodbye. Thank you. Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Matt.